Hi, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to one of our snackable sessions. My name is Ryan Anderson, Associate Dean with the Center for Entrepreneurship and the School of Business. Today, our snackable session is going to be focused on getting started for entrepreneurs. So those first exciting yet terrifying steps that entrepreneurs have in getting their business started. I'm really excited to join again today by Nikki Morrison and Katie Sear. We're very proud of Nikki and Katie's journeys as entrepreneurs. Nikki was in our co-op program and absolutely was phenomenal in that program. And Katie is an alumnus of our Surge program too. So some fantastic success stories that we have joining us today. We're going to focus on getting started. So Nikki, why don't we start with you with what your business is and how maybe potentially you got started in this business?
All right, I am Nikki. I am a small business owner in professional photography for 10 years. I graduated with psychology and now I'm venturing into technology as an electrical student to contribute technology towards the frontier of capturing plastic pollution in our environments. Are we going to get Katie to introduce herself
Yeah,
as
well,
well?
Katie, why don't you say hi and
Yeah.
then we'll get started then.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie. I own the Monarch Tea Co based here in Hamilton, Ontario, and I'm also a tea sommelier through the Tea and Herbal Association of Canada, and I am a Mohawk College graduate.
Nice. So why don't we start, Nikki, with how did you get started? How did you go from an actual idea to sort of giving birth to your new venture?
Absolutely. It's very non-linear, but I basically started with demonstrating my expertise in photography, and word of mouth kind of gave birth to that. After my fourth or fifth client, I decided to incorporate that business. I also took it further by doing corporate responsibilities and hosting beachline cleanups with the Great Canadian Shoreline Company. And then I started brainstorming there on how to solve microplastic pollutions, which inspired me to go back to school and start my capstone project on developing this prototype and using Surge as a kind of incubator on, refining more of those details that revolved around me creating this prototype and launching it.
It's a fantastic example of an entrepreneur always being an entrepreneur, no matter what the path is, doesn't it? When you
Absolutely.
go from a photography business now to working in a completely different area as far as environment goes, and it's there's diversification, Nikki, and then there's you, and that's a pretty cool story. It really is. Katie, how about you?
Awesome. So I started drinking tea from a very young age with my grandmother. So it was always something that I loved to do in a ritual that was part of my lifestyle anyways. As I grew older, I was in the coffee and tea industry, was a barista at Starbucks for 6 years and always like dabbling in different drinks. And so I started creating my own micro tea blends at home. So just making really small batches of different teas blended together for specific health benefits or for specific feelings. And I would literally just serve them to family and friends when they'd come over. So I was always known as like kind of the tea girl. From there, I just loved and started reading about tea, getting any book I could find on it and starting to just kind of educate myself on the world of tea. And I was at work one day and a friend, a coworker mentioned, "Oh, did you know Mohawk has like a tea sommelier program? I think I saw that." Quickly ran to the computer, Googled it, saw the continuing education course offering the Tea Somm program and immediately registered, like I think that night. So then that took me on a journey as working full time, but then at night taking the continuing education course. And then in the meantime, kind of starting on weekends, like doing little pop-up tea shows at different people's homes. So people would have me in to do like a tea presentation, let's say for like a bridal shower or a corporate event or friends getting together or a Christmas event. And so I'd serve tea, talk to others about tea, and then start to sell my little batches that I blended at those home parties. So that was kind of the very beginning stages of my business.
It's amazing. Sometimes I think entrepreneurs don't know they have a business when they actually have a business, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. Nikki, how about you? What were your early days in starting?
It was a lot, and it can seem overwhelming when you start. The nerves are actually really big because as an entrepreneur, you are the social media manager, web designer, investor, technician, accountant, administrator, like the whole shebang. And normally these are delegated in medium to large companies. You're not doing all of that by yourself, but you are in a new, very startup company. So trying to get over the nerves will get you much further, much faster, rather than, our whole energy procrastinating conversation. And yeah, knowing your worth will go a long way for you. So you don't cut, yourself slack because you're trying to make other people happy and you're a people pleaser. So you got to know your worth, and that way it won't spoil the entrepreneurship journey for you. And it'll actually make a substantial difference in your quality of life. It'll be realized.
I think too, it's a phenomenal point, Nikki. I think too, you also have to know where you're not the expert too. And I know, Katie, in other conversations, you and I have talked about the fact that, often entrepreneurs get involved in a business because they actually have a skill or a passion. And that skill maybe, we've got two completely varied paths in both Katie and Nikki here, but you do have to acquire expertise or at least knowledge in areas that you are not comfortable with, whether that's numbers, whether that's advertising, whether that's licensing and copyrights and all those crazy things that entrepreneurs may have to go and venture into. Those I find are the hardest parts of your early days of entrepreneurship, is recognizing that you might need that help and you're not the expert. And that's something that I know that I found out personally, as well as we help entrepreneurs within our programs. We have to sit down and go and say, there is time when you have to make some calls and admit that you might need that help, which as an entrepreneur, that's hard, because you get into this business because you want to be your own boss as well, don't you? Katie, can you speak a little bit to that? Were there areas that you had to learn, that you had to sort of pick up or pick up the phone and say help?
Oh my gosh, I could think of a million examples. And literally when I was making notes before this call, one of my learning experiences was to say, don't be afraid to ask for help. So many instances, but I'm going to give two very recent concrete examples. So as my web business grew over the past year and a half with COVID, especially a lot more people buying online, I started getting a huge influx of US and international customers, which was awesome, super exciting. So I shipped off a large shipment to the US, all filled with tea. And I get a call from FedEx, and it's being held at the border because it needed to be registered with the Food and Drug Administration. Didn't know that, because for years I'd been like, the odd time to get a US order, ship it, but I guess they never flagged it. But now all of a sudden a huge volume of tea is being shipped in the US. And if you're shipping, I guess, food or drugs to the US, you now have to fill out like a special form and register with the FDA. I was super intimidated, super overwhelmed. It just seemed so scary dealing with like the US government. I'm on this website, it's not user friendly. I'm trying to figure it out. I have a bunch of product literally sitting at the border and I don't know what to do. And it was that moment where I'm like, I wish I had a shipping department. I wish I had someone else I could ask. And I at that time didn't know what to do. So I self-taught, literally sat down, literally started like going through the site, taking it step by step, Googling, trying to understand, figured out what I needed to do to register the products and to register my business with the FDA, figured it out, got the stuff done. And now when I ship a US order, I know, okay, I need to fill out an FDA form and attach it to the shipment. So at the border, they can see, okay, it's registered, it's safe to be imported into the States. But there's a very recent example of like, I knew nothing about that. I didn't even know that was a thing. Because for years, I guess I'd been getting away without it until all of a sudden it was flagged, being like, whoa, what's going on? So that's just one of those things, super intimidating, but like, just take the time to research, either call people or look up and take the time. Don't be scared. Don't give up because it seems intimidating. You can teach yourself, or you can find someone to help guide you through it. And I'm glad I didn't just say, okay, cancel that order, I can't ship to the US. It would be easy to say that. It would be easy to just say, I don't do international shipping, but then I'd be limiting myself. So yeah.
It's interesting too, Kay, there's a decision within a decision there too, because I'm sure at some point, if you couldn't figure it out, that's time. And that's you are your employee in that case. And so if you've got that time, you may have to make a decision to say, you know what, I can't spend more hours trying to figure this out. I may have to go and outsource this or hire someone to go and do these things. And that in itself is an entrepreneurship sort of a decision we have to make as well, isn't it? Nikki, how about you? Has there been something along the road right now where you've realized either I don't know this, I'm not the expert, either I have to take time to realize that and research and learn, or I may have to get some help?
Absolutely. Designing this prototype, as much as I can be like, what? No, I delegated. I definitely got help. I didn't know fully what I was doing, but I had an inclination, and asking the right questions to the right people kind of keeps the truck going along. The design with CAD prototyping and 3D printing is not my expertise, so I outsourced that. I communicate, I tell them what I want. They have no idea. They're kind of just a technician working on it. But then throughout that, as it begins to develop, there comes to fruition the vision of what is happening and where we're going with this. Especially, you know, lawyers and accounting, that is definitely delegated and not done solely by me. Incorporating, like, you can't do that by yourself. You need a lawyer. So there are definitely, and that's the reality of a business. You're not going to do everything by yourself. And if you're doing everything by yourself, there's something that needs to be looked at, because you're not going to scale. And that is the whole point of a business eventually, is that you want it to grow, and otherwise you're just going to shut it down. So yes, small businesses start out with you, but get prepared, because it is going to grow and it's going to go beyond you. And you need to have very capable and like honest, hardworking people in your corner in order for that to happen.
And, you know, there's also, when you make those first hires, I know, Katie, you and I have talked about this in the past, there is a surrendering of control to your business, because you do have to hire someone that not only can perform a skill, but also shares your vision and your passion, and you're sharing part of you. They really are. And, you know, some entrepreneurs will look towards family members to fill those spots, and that could be fantastic, but it can be dangerous. Some will look to people that they can get that are the cheapest, or whatever that might be. But I know, Katie, you've had to make those decisions too, haven't you, to actually take an employee on? And that couldn't have been easy, because that is a huge step. B, a financial cost that you weren't having before. And C, you are emotionally sharing your business with someone else, aren't you?
Absolutely. And it was honestly something I wish I did earlier. I think of all the times that I just tried to do everything by myself, even large scale, like physical events where I'm going to somewhere and I'm carrying huge bins and huge boxes, and I just didn't ask for help. I didn't, even if it was like, let's say, asking a family member to help me at a show, I didn't do it. I just thought I could do everything by myself. And I'm looking back, like, it's okay to ask someone to give you a hand. And now that I have a team member, they're just very, very part-time, but it helps when I have huge orders to fill, because the physical demand of like building and packaging these large orders and dealing with the amount that I'd have to deal with is just too much, and it's not worth it. Like, time is money. So I'd rather pay someone. And I'm proud to pay a living wage and just have them on my team that I can trust and have help alleviate the burden. I also now outsource, like similar to what Nikki was mentioning. I have a web designer, I have an accountant, I now have like a lawyer that I can speak to on like specific things that I'm not an expert in, and it is so worth it. Then instead, even though earlier I said try to figure it out and do whatever you need to do to figure things out, try to do that first if you can, but of course don't be afraid to ask for help, especially in areas that you know they're not your expertise, and it's not worth spending 1,000 hours building your website when you could hire someone, a professional, to build that vision for you.
And you sort of get what you pay for. I think sometimes as an entrepreneur, if you do hire someone, there is that expectation of delivery, as opposed to when you're doing it yourself, you kind of get what your level of skill will get you to, doesn't it? So, so I'd like to end this session by talking a little bit about the lessons that you've learned, and a little bit about along the way, what's that one thing that you said, you know what, I'm going to take that and put it in my pocket, move forward with. Katie, you look like you've got something on the tip of your tongue, so I'll go to you first, then Nikki, I'll come to you.
Okay. Oh my gosh, there could be a million things, but just on what we literally just spoke about as well. For example, the first 6 years of my business was a website I had just designed myself. And so it was pretty amateur, it did the job, but not professional whatsoever. When COVID hit, I bit the bullet to invest in a website designer and actually get the website looking professional. And my business increased over 3,000%. Part of that, of course, could be from COVID, but literally taking the steps to hire someone that knew how to do SEO and get on Google and Google Ads and big images and beautiful videos and text and everything that needed to be done to do it professionally and properly. And I saw a massive increase. So that's an example. One other quick one is, for me, it's just, don't be cheap. It's okay to spend a little extra and invest in your business and the tools that are going to help you do your business properly. I mentioned in another session, I used to handwrite all my shipping labels. Instead, bite the bullet. I bought a $300 special label maker, and it's literally, my life has changed 1,000 times easier. And not only does my business look more professional than some handwritten label, because I'm not a craft shop, I'm a professional business. So it's those little things, but for years I was oh, $300 for a printer, it's worth it. Spend the money on the tools that are going to help you look professional and take your business to the next level. Do those things. It is 100% worth it.
It's interesting, I'll flip this to a consumer. If if I'm looking to provide something to my staff, and I think that, your service would be fantastic. I'm going to give you some money. I want to look at your website and I want to have a sense of comfort and confidence that you are a thriving business that can service what I want. I don't want to go and take a look and say, okay, well, is your business open? Is your business active? I want to see that there's that credibility to your business because, COVID has caused us, especially in your space and in more of a retail space too, it's caused us to only look online. And so our judgment now is no longer driving by a store and seeing how you look. Our judgment really in a lot of ways has only been how you look online and what's that online presence. And it's a fantastic example to go and say, you know what, you may have to spend some more money than you thought of. And I always would say when people talk about advertising and marketing, Katie, they say, well, I can't afford to do that. And my response is, can you afford not to do that? Because without that, you don't have a business, you don't have a clientele. So it's a fantastic lesson for us out there to go and hear. Nikki, how about you? What are those lessons that you've learned that you've picked up early along the way?
Lots. And I will go with one that I think a lot of people don't learn early enough. As much as we do become our own bosses, we have clients and shareholders that become our new bosses. But the nice thing about entrepreneurship and being your own boss is that you can hire and fire your own boss. So you can say no. If you think working with someone's going to be extremely difficult and not consistent and not good communications, that is where the game changes. You cannot fire your boss as an employee, but as your own boss, you can definitely say no. And that will save you a lot of heartache and pain going forward if you learn it sooner than later. People pleasing will not serve you if it causes you too much stress.
Interesting. So I'll ask one last question because I really like what you're saying there, because sometimes it's not worth the effort for the return, right? Katie, in your area, you do have to sort of more of a retail spot. You do have to service some of those hard clients, so don't you?
Yes, and literally, Nikki, I resonate with what you're saying 1,000%. There has been times in the past where I've had to say no and decline the business politely. There have been people that were either rude or made me uncomfortable, and you'll know in your heart what feels right and what doesn't feel right. But if you get like a super bad vibe or someone right off the bat is just crossing boundaries, you might either find a way to work with them and set those boundaries so you can have a business relationship. But there might be some folks that you're just like, this isn't right, and I'm going to politely decline your offer to work together or suggest someone else that might better service their needs. So yeah, boundary setting, huge, knowing your worth and sticking to that, and knowing what your comfort level is, and that it's okay to say no to some people if it's not clicking.
And that is so foreign to a business that is brand new, that is really hungry for customers. Yes. To have that decision between taking on a client to pay bills and to keep the business going in some respects, and then looking and going and saying that may not be the best client for me to work with. It's Nikki, I think it's a phenomenal example because it's very foreign to a new business. Most new businesses will take on any clients they possibly can to gain a footing, to start over, to actually have that power to go and say no, because long run, it's not what I can be doing. It's a hard decision, and it's one that entrepreneurs often don't make because they're so desperate. Yeah, Katie?
I just want to touch on one more thing super quickly.
Please.
Also
Absolutely.
On that note, talking about like hiring website designers, hiring graphic designers, don't also go with your first pick either. It's similar to an interview. Interview your different web designers, your accountants, or whoever you're thinking of working with. Look to see their portfolio, look to see their past experience. I also learned in the past, going with just the first recommendation that was given to me, not really taking the time to dive deep into their work, and then end up having a bad experience. So don't say yes to the first person that presents themselves as, hey, I can fix this problem for you. Take your time, get your quotes, see their work, do your research to make sure it is a person that you're comfortable working with, and set timelines and be transparent in what you need. That's definitely another learning experience I've had in the past as well. So it's okay to also say no after someone's given you their quote that you're like, no, this isn't going to be the right fit for me. I'm going to keep looking to find, a designer or accountant that really suits my needs.
Interesting. I think this has been fantastic. Nikki, Katie, thank you so much for the time you've given on these things. And I know our students and the community that and alumni that watch this will really take a lot of value from what you've done. And I know that you're on other Sackville sessions that there are folks will be watching, but I really appreciate the time, and I've learned a ton today. And so thank you both so very much.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
having me. Bye, everyone. See you.
Yes.
Bye.